The Seattle Sounders' brand new 2025 kit is here. Inspired by two traditional Southern Coast Salish weaving techniques, twilling and twinning. These techniques, passed down through generations, honor the resilience, deep-rooted ties, and creativity that define the cultural fabric of this region. The striking deep blue jersey will be worn by the Sounders for the next 2 seasons to honor the club's deep connection with the Puget Sound and shared responsibility as stewards of the greater Salish Sea watershed. Backing up that commitment, the Seattle Sounders will donate up to $50,000 to benefit community charities around the Puget Sound region. To get your very own Salish Sea kit, visit lobbingscorchers.com/kit. That's lobbingscorchers.com/KIT.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of Lobbing Scorchers Kickoff. I'm Ari, that's Niko, and we've got a great show for you here this morning to kick off the week. The vibes in Seattle Sounders land are much improved after a 3-0 victory over Nashville SC at Lumen Field in Matchday 9. Niko, I'm dying to catch up with you about this game because I think it was pretty comfortably the best performance of the season for Seattle. They've had a couple other good ones. The Antigua series, there was some good stuff. The LAFC game comes to mind. But there's nothing been as comprehensive as this. There's nothing that's had the atmosphere at Lumen Field like this one did. There's nothing that's had Jesus Ferreira look as good as he did. Pedro de la Vega got a goal. So a lot to talk about here. And I guess let's just start, Niko, with your general thoughts and takeaways from this game, and then we'll get into the fine points of it.
Yeah, I called it a statement win for a Sounders team that we had mentioned, we knew was extremely talented, but things just had not come together the way they did against a very good Nashville team. To say that this is a good squad, this was a win that the parameter was high. I feel like it's very fair. You are maybe not taking on a top 3 team in the league or top 5 team in the league, but you are playing against a team that is well coached, that was very balanced, that both defensively and offensively had looked really good, that they had taken a lot of pride in the way they were always in every single game. And Seattle completely took it away from them in the first 45 minutes. They saw the moment and were able to, in 15 minutes, I believe, or 20, they just closed the game down. And I thought that every single player that perhaps had some sort of scrutiny had a fantastic game. Danny Musovski, that was a quality goal, man. I mean, again, I'm not here going to sit here and tell you anything different than what I had said previously, because I always say that if anything, my analysis is always going to have consistency. So he wasn't, Chicho or Cucho when he wasn't making goals, and he isn't now either, right? I don't want to make it seem like because Danny Musovski scored a couple of goals, now he's going to be the striker of the future for the Sounders. But I will give him credit for a quality goal. I love resourcefulness and creativity by strikers in specific moments, and that's what the little flick back heel is at that particular moment. Pedro de la Vega was by far the most dynamic player on the field, electric all over, and Ferreira, man, just smart, IQ'd, just a lot of effort. The off the ball runs by both Pedro and Ferreira is what ultimately ends up unlocking a Nashville team that in the first 15 minutes was having a good game. And Seattle looked a little sloppy, and they were You could see that perfectly balanced 4-4-2 or 4-4-1-1 defensively in the way that they were managing the game. And because of all of the movement that Seattle was doing, little by little, you could see that they were opening certain spaces. And all of a sudden, when those gates open, Seattle just jumped on the opportunity to put the game away. So all in all, huge statement win. Credit to the coaching staff, credit to all the players. It was near perfect.
Let's talk about Ferreira a little more, because for me, that was probably the biggest takeaway from this game was how much better that looked. I've been saying for the last couple weeks that I just want to see progress with it. And I felt like you saw it a little bit in the Dallas game, but it still didn't look like it was quite there. But this game, I think it's fair to say you can call it like real, meaningful, actual progress. He gets on the stat sheet with 2 assists, so that's important. But more so than that, it was really just how the whole operation looked with him playing a little more of that central role with Obed Rusnak not starting this game, still coming back from injury. He gets in the second half. But this was the most effective and dynamic Ferreira has looked by far. I thought he was excellent. I thought he was combining with everyone really well. Like you mentioned, the thing that I've always liked about watching him play, dating back to the FC Dallas days, is that soccer IQ. You know, the small stuff he does with his body positioning to win that ball, like in a position where he can hit that Rothrock assist. It's like a small thing, but that is all stuff that he's really good at. And we've seen in like little spurts and flashes, but it hasn't really come to fruition on this team yet. I don't think we can say that it's fully come to fruition. I'm not countering victory lap in the victory lappers, but I do think this was meaningful progress, and it honestly does bring up questions, lineup decisions, because Niko, do you think it was as simple as kind of having him play a more central role as opposed to playing in the wide channel or as Pier 9, kind of having him more in that 10-ish role where he can facilitate and use that space instead of he and Rusnak kind of clashing on each other's space? Do you think there's more to it than why he looks so much better, or is it just that he's had more reps and more time with the squad?
I really do think that it's just the reps and times and understanding where certain players are going to be. You see the way he lifts his head to look where Paul Rothrock has consistently be getting on those prime scoring positions, and he picks up his head, sees them, puts the ball right where it needs to go. There was a lot of times where he was making the correct runs for Cristian or Obed to hit him in space. He actually played more on the left pocket and was combining more with, at times, whenever Nuhu would push up, as well as Paul Rothrock. I thought that was excellent. However, with a guy like Pedro de la Vega, where Pedro, he is a lot more free. I thought that they interchange at times. I felt like maybe Ferreira would drop in a lot more. I think that Pedro and his relationship has grown a lot quicker because they complement each other so well. And with the reps, the minutes, and their specific relationship, I just think that it all looked much better. I will also say that when everyone is playing well, it's a lot easier. And I think that's another reason why he was getting so much time on the ball as well, because Cristian and Obed had a baller of a game. They completely dominated the midfield, and whether it was in repress moments to essentially win the game in transition, because that's the way they won it. In terms of goals, there was only the one goal there at the end where Seattle's in possession, but the other two are transition moments. And I feel like that's another point of Ferreira's game that needs to be used more, because he is so good in transition moments. So I just think that it's a little bit of everything. But if I had to choose one factor, it's specifically just the minutes, the continuity, and just understanding his teammates a lot better, and his teammates understanding him a lot better. I continue to think that at some point in time, he could do that exact same role from that 9 position. But right now, if it's not broken, just let it ride. But if there is ever a need for the Sounders to play him a little bit higher, then you're going to have to kind of take in consideration those areas where he likes to play. But overall, even going into this game, you could see him talking a lot more clearer about what each specific player around him needed and wanted. If you look back at the press conference or the scrum we had with him late week before this game, he talks about the difference between Albert and Pedro and the way he can play differently with each one of them, and how sometimes he plays different with Jordan and the way he's understanding Obed a little bit better. So all in all, you could kind of see it in the water. You kind of see it in the way he was expressing himself, that he's slowly understanding his group a little bit better. And that's huge for a player of his caliber and a player of his, obviously, soccer IQ that kind of needs that to react to at times even play off of memory and understand the game a little bit better with this specific group of players.
Here's the question that Noah and I were talking about, and then I'll hit a couple of these comments in chat. But I think the question now becomes, can you or how do you play Ferreira and Rusnak together at the same time? Because I think it's pretty clear that with Ferreira as kind of the lone guy occupying that space, it looked like 10 times more effective. And that's not to say that it's impossible for them to play together, but I think it is fair to say that right now they haven't figured out how to best maximize both of those players when they're on the field at the same time. And when Rusnak's healthy, you have to think that he's a starter. Ferreira was not brought here to be a super sub. Like, you could mix and match and rotate that position based on matchup and, you know, start one, bring the other off the bench. But I don't think that that was the initial idea when you made this trade. I think the idea when you made this trade was that he and Rusnak would be playing together. They haven't figured that out yet, but I don't think that means that it's impossible or that they can't figure it out. How do you think they do that? Can they do that?
I think it's going to be difficult, but going back and using Ferreira's words that were so clear, when he talked about Albert and him working together and how it was more difficult than him and Pedro, it was because when he gets on the field and he's with Pedro, he already knows that Pedro's the runner. He said, when me and Pedro are working together, I know that I'm the passer, he's the runner. So I know exactly what he's going to do. He knows exactly what I'm going to do. When it comes to me and Albert, we're both passers. And we're still trying to figure out when one of us has to be a runner and when one of us has to be a passer. And that dynamic is a lot more difficult when it feels like both of the players are in the same spaces, are looking for the same runs, and it becomes a lot more stagnant, right? So in my opinion, if you're going to play them together, you're playing them without Jordan Morris, and you are playing them more in a 4-2-3-1 situation where he's going to be able to be a false nine and your wingers are going to have the majority of the runs behind them. And whether it is that ability to say, okay, in most of the time that we have the ball and in transition moments, Ferreira, you're never a passer. You're always a runner. You're always going to be right in front of Albert Rusnak. And then when you do feel like you need to gravitate, then you tell Albert Rusnak, okay, now you got to be the guy running behind, or you got to be the guy that's getting away, getting into space, or looking for those wingers to get behind. But you got to make it a lot more structured, because it is a lot more difficult to play away from a player's instincts. And I feel like Albert and Ferreira's instincts are very similar. So whenever you are going to play them together, you got to structure it. You got to design it so those moments of gravitating to certain places don't happen. You're kind of going away from a player's instincts, which, you know, can be difficult, but it can be done.
Yeah, I think it can be done. I think they clearly need to work on it more, but I think they're both high enough soccer IQ players that they can make it work. It's just a question of if they will make it work. But I think there's no question. I loved what I saw from Ferreira in this game. It was just nice to see him look that much more comfortable. He's the goals that he's assisting on when the other guys are scoring, he's celebrating like he scored it, you know, and that unselfishness and the nature of his play that's part of what's made him such a good player in the league throughout his career. He scored a bunch of goals, but honestly, the more you watch the guy play, you see like he would rather set someone else up to score than score himself. That's just like, he's an unselfish player. He's I think he's been almost too deferential at times so far with his time in Seattle. But at the end of the day, I think it's a great quality to have to really have that desire to want to set your teammates up. And Ferreira has that. It's like it's hardwired in him. I guess I wanted to ask you, Niko, at some point. I'll just do it right now. I mean, how familiar with the game of David Ferreira are you? Like, did you grow up watching him much or get much of an idea of what type of player he is? Because I'm curious as to whether his skill set is similar to Jesus in that way, if he was kind of a facilitator, or if Jesus kind of combines David's goal scoring with more of like that point guard mentality.
That is a very good question. I think that the only not a problem, but maybe is that the game has evolved so much, specifically when, yes, of course, we watched David Ferreira. That's kind of my first interactions with MLS, was the Valderramas, was the David Ferreiras. I mean, the Colombia players that kind of set the road for the rest of the Colombia's moving to the league, and that made it interesting. And he was more of a creative player. Now that you said that, it is kind of interesting. Now the game was a lot slower. There wasn't as much of this total football mentality, so it was a lot easier to play with that sort of reference. But it's interesting. Me and Ferreira actually had a conversation about that this week, about his dad, and he kind of mentioned that his mom is here now because his wife is actually pregnant. He's about to have a little girl. So congratulations to Ferreira. And we kind of talked about his dad, and the legend that was, and how a lot of his game, at times does resemble his dad. So he's obviously more dynamic. Ferreira is a lot faster, and he feels like he gets into certain spaces a lot easier, more of a goal scorer than his dad was, in my opinion. But yeah, that's interesting that the creativity definitely kind of sets there together.
That is interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into David Ferreira more. I can't obviously know about his status in the game, and that Jesus, or he's Jesus's dad, but that's about all I know. So interesting.
Yeah, he just wasn't like that prolific goal scorer like Ferreira is, right? Like
right.
52 goal scorer. That wasn't his game. Again, very different molds, right? Very different soccer in moments in time. But he was a quality player. He was a guy that his technicality was always what put him above other players.
Let's hit a couple of these comments from chat. Squared 1234 says Kim had a couple of poor passes, but overall looked very comfortable filling in for Jackson. Great bench piece. Yeah, I think it's a great shout. Jackson Reagan out for the next few weeks here. Kim Kee-Hee, I don't think any of us knew fully what to expect when they re-signed him. He's 5 years deeper into his career. He's 35 now. How much does he have left in the tank? But I wasn't that concerned about that based on what I gathered from how he was playing in the Korean league. He was like a best 11 defender over there still. So I was like, all right, I feel like this makes sense. And then I think if you watched him play in this game, he was steady as ever. It kind of reminded me of why we all appreciated Kim Kee-Hee during his original stint with this club, just because of that steadiness on the ball, the composure he's got. His passing, I thought, was pretty good. So I came out of this game feeling pretty confident that they can stay afloat defensively during this period while Jackson Reagan is out. And if anything, if Kim keeps playing like this, it's just more competition for spots. Like, what did you make of Kim Kee-Hee in this game, Niko?
I thought Kim was very good, and it wasn't just necessarily the passing. For me, it was the physicality component. He was just throwing people, and I like the fact that he came in there willing to take that, body to body. There was a couple of moments where he's just straight up just throwing people like ragdolls, and I feel like that physicality component was big, specifically against a Sam Surridge that he flopped more than LeBron James. I mean, it was weird how much he flopped all game because he is kind of the bigger dude, and similarly as with LeBron, when you're that big and you flop, looks kind of weird. But I thought that Kim did a great job all over, defending in space, pushing high. I mean, I think Bryant said it best by saying that he did not set a wrong foot, basically saying that he just didn't make any bad passes, didn't get off position. He just seemed to be at the right place at the right time. Now, I want to push back on everybody and those people that are already throwing the maybe we should replace Jackson Reagan with Kee-Hee. I think that Kim's best setup for this team is exactly this. You have him ready just in case you need someone to hold the fort, if you will, for a couple of weeks, but then you let him sit back down, you manage his minutes. He's played a lot of minutes, and I know he has, especially off the last season. But I just would not feel as comfortable as I do with Jackson Reagan, despite some of the mistakes that he does. Passing wise, he's no Jackson Reagan. I mean, he had some good passing, but he's not as prolific as to break lines so consistently as Jackson, and he obviously wasn't as comfortable getting forward with the ball the way Jackson does. But I don't want to take anything away from Kim. I thought he had a stellar game. Quite honestly, when I look at the team, I think everybody had a baller game. I thought Nuhu was excellent. He had a couple of boo-boos, and
after the first 10 minutes, he was good.
The first 50 minutes for me, it was sloppy overall for a lot of players, but specifically him. He had a couple of bad passes, bad moments. He has one opportunity in the final third where he just completely shanks a potential cross. But once he settled into the game, I thought he was very good. I think he sets up Jordan Morris with a very good pass that I was like, who's that? And my daughter was like, that's Nuhu, Dad. I was like, no. Oh, man, it was Nuhu. I mean, I had to go watch the game again for me to realize that Nuhu put that ball in, because I watched the game from the stands with my family, and so, soccer's a little bit different when you watch it from that angle. But, yeah, I thought Nuhu was very good. I thought he was active. I thought that even on the ball, when he, like, breaks Mule's ankles for there in a second in the final third, on his own third, I thought was quality play. You know, he should have got him a yellow for, you know, then him getting like beat from the back because he was upset that he got his ankles broken. But I thought he was very good. I thought Paul Rothrock was excellent. Just everybody just had a very good game. But both of the pivots were essential for what Seattle tried to do. So yeah, man, I thought that everyone had an excellent game. But going back to Kee-Hee, I think it gives you peace of mind to have a guy that's a veteran player that you know can come in at any moment, at any time, and give you clarity, give you a guy that's going to be more conservative with the ball, and that you know that can definitely take the hits, man. Again, I go back to his physicality. I thought it was outstanding.
Yeah, you mentioned it there, but as long as we're doing shout-outs, I think you have to mention the double pivot in this game. They had a rough one in San Diego a few weeks ago. They were fantastic in this game, both of them. Obed was man of the match for me. I thought he was everywhere. He was a monster. Just what he brings on both sides of the ball contributes so much to this team. And really, like, all three of the goals in this game were great team goals. But I love that one where Obed makes that run to the touch line and beats his defender to that spot and puts that cross back into the mixer for De La Vega to just smash that ball. That's such a good high percentage chance. Like, when this team is at its best, that's the type of chances that they're generating. And Obed was central to all that in this game. The price went up. Got another question in chat here. Got a few. I'll try and get to as many of these as we can. I think this is an interesting one, Niko. Should Schmetzer start the same 11 against Colorado, keep rewarding them for great play, or start his more traditional starters? I think that is kind of the question right now, because you do have Rusnak and Morris coming back from injury, and they both got their first minutes back in this last game. I think you're in a situation where both of them are probably not 90 fit yet. So what you can do, at least for this Colorado game, is ride the hot hand to start. I think pretty much just start the same lineup that you did versus Nashville. Give those guys an opportunity to replicate that, to build on that. And then depending on how it's going, you can work Jordan and Albert in there when and if you see fit. And if it goes really well, you ride it until the 60th or the 70th and get those guys some run at the end of the game like you did in this game. That's what I would do. And then going forward after that, though, the coaching staff has some decisions to make. If they keep playing like that, there's going to be guys that aren't necessarily considered first choice 11 that might have to be if they keep playing like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. It's a great question because it's not as easy as it may seem. However, if I had to guess, I know that you want to keep Jordan Morris in rhythm, and he needs to potentially start that game. He did not have the most prolific last, their minutes of that game because he gets a couple of chances that he cannot put away, that he should have put away. So I want to keep his confidence up. He is such a big part of what this system could look like. So I would potentially start Jordan Morris. Albert Rusnak, maybe you give Ferreira some time off, but that could go either way. I'm more concerned about the pivots and the amount of time that they've got in. I was pleased to see JP come in and get some time on the ball. But yeah, man, it's a good problem to have. But eventually, you will need to figure out what your best 11, and you're going to have to create continuity. And as much as depth is fantastic, because even Ryan Kent came in and he looked really good when he came on. I still think that you need to be able to have a consistent 11. So that chemistry that we just talked about, specifically for one player, can continue to build, right? And I mean, that's just soccer in general. I mean, it's very simple, right? I mean, this team is going to continue to create a slow chemistry through training and then eventually get some of those hard competitive minutes within those games where the chemistry gets even more cemented in, because it is completely different to practice than to be on the field and play competitive games. But essentially, the biggest question is going to be, are you going to have to keep a guy like Ferreira on the bench, who is obviously such a big part of your salary, of your investment this season? Or do you modify everything and maybe, I don't know, try to see how it works out to get your best players at one time? I just don't see the way you're going to fit everybody necessarily, but it is something that will need to happen at some point.
It's going to be interesting. I don't necessarily envy Schmetzer and the coaching staff for some of the decisions they're going to have to make, because like whatever decision you make, it feels like someone is going to be super subbing that maybe you think shouldn't be. And then if that doesn't work out, then, you're open to criticism on that front. So I trust the coaching staff to figure out what the best setup is when they have everyone more healthier. I honestly have no idea like what it's going to look like at this point. That's why the next few weeks here are going to be interesting as Jordan gets back, as Albert gets back, as Ryan Kent, like you mentioned, gets into the fold. I having covered this league for a long time, I've realized these questions tend to answer themselves based on stuff like fixture congestion and fitness and injuries and absences for whatever reason. Like, you have these lineup debates and then the debate blows up because of, insert whatever factor here that decides your lineup for you. But it's still interesting to talk about. And it also, assuming that they do have a relatively clean bill of health in the coming weeks here, those decisions are they're here for this coaching staff.
The crazy part is that if you're going to put all your best players, if you will, or your most expensive players all on the field at one time, which would be Morris, Ferreira, Albert, and Pedro, you're kind of killing a guy like Paul Rothrock that's been so good, so consistent, has put so much effort in, because he would be the odd man out at that moment in time. If in any way, in shape or form, you could put it together, which to me, it only happens in a 4-2-3-1, where you have Jordan as a 9, you got Ferreira playing on the right side, at the right wing position, Albert in the middle, and Pedro on the left wing. That's literally the only way you get all those 4 players in, unless you want to try to put Pedro de la Vega as a left wing back or something. I mean,
what about Rothrock? What about Rothrock as the?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Rothrock would be the odd guy out if you want to put all your most expensive players at one time, which would be unfair. Quite honestly, it would be unfair to kind of just say, all right, Paul, thank you for everything you've done. We're just going to sit you because we need to play our most expensive players. It just will make no sense. I honestly do feel like just like Brian has said it in the past, it's 4 players for 3 positions for the Sounders. So one of those 4 players I just mentioned will be out at some point in time all the time.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I agree that Rothrock has earned a starting role in principle. I do kind of love his skill set as a super sub, like just the energy and the bounce that he plays with. Like, I think that lends itself well to coming in later in the game when maybe you're going against defenders and midfielders with tired legs, and then you throw a fresh Rothrock in there. I think that can be used to great effect, even if based on how he's playing right now, he does deserve to be starting. Luke says, do we think Schmetzer is going to fall back on depending on Morris-type goals going forward instead of developing this really dynamic attacking team that evolved during his injury? I think in an ideal world, the field stretching ability and the runs that Jordan Morris can make that have been maybe missing in the last few weeks prior to this game, he can add that to the strides that we've seen taken, and it could maybe even add another dynamic element on top of what we're seeing. That's what I would hope to see. And then you throw in an emerging healthy De La Vega and Ryan Kent, and you got even a couple of other wrinkles that you could throw to it. So there's some intriguing stuff going on with the roster right now.
And that's the funny part about what I try not to do, which is be very reactive to one scoreline, right? And one specific game. Because look, Musovski's not doing anything differently from Jordan Morris, and he's not doing anything better than Jordan Morris. So Jordan Morris is only going to amplify what Musovski's doing. And again, that's not a knock on him. I don't want to dog the guy. I'm happy that he's getting goals, but with Jordan Morris, it's going to look that much better. So this team will be just as dynamic as it was, or it should be just as dynamic as it was, but with a better striker, essentially. And I know that people are going to fall on the thing that, well, you saw him come in and good old Jordan missing those opportunities. Look, the guy was just coming in for a couple of minutes after not being in for a while. Give him a chance. He's clearly going to be able to get to those positions. I actually thought that Nashville looked a little bit more compact and did a better job at keeping Seattle away from the flanks and those wide areas when they switched to what I believe was a 3-4-3 essentially in the second half. They ended up pulling Brugman out, and they ended up going to what I believe, like I said, is a 3-4-3. But at the end of the day, Jordan Morris was still able to get into certain positions, was still able to get behind the defense, and that's all credit to him because he does such a good job at doing that, getting himself on site, and then all of a sudden getting behind those center backs. So let's put a little respect in Jordan Morris's name, and I think it's going to look even better. And the team should be just as dynamic because, again, nothing has changed, right? The formation's still the same. The concepts are still the same. I just think that they had a fantastic game, and they've been working since prior to Dallas pretty consistently. And you kind of saw a little bit of what Paul Rothrock had said at one point, that they had hit rock bottom because it felt like that. The training week before Dallas kind of starts off this moment that Seattle has until this moment in time. And then we'll see if they can carry that to Colorado here next week.
Moose is doing great work right now. He is providing the team with a look at his setup that can be dynamic and productive even when Jordan Morris can't play. He's not as dynamic a runner as Jordan Morris. That's just not in his bag as much. With Jordan Morris, you get that field stretching ability that really not many. I don't think any player on the roster provides that to the effect that he does. So I can't wait to see what Jordan can do. It can contribute to this when he gets back. Do you guys think the lack of goals in the second half was due to subs being a bit rusty from injury or not fully fit, Nashville making defensive adjustments, or Sounders taking their foot off the gas? Yeah, here's my take on this. When you're up by 3 goals, there is no obligation or incentive to be throwing numbers forward, chasing the goal, chasing another goal like you need a game winner. It's not to say that you shouldn't try and score, but it's on the other team to force the issue at that point when they're down, when the moment it becomes a 3-goal lead. A 2-goal lead, if you give up 1 goal, then it's ball game again. A 3-goal lead, it's the other team that needs to be pressing, not you. Like if they're willing to sit back and cede possession and you can just knock it around, there's no reason for you to be lumping balls forward or playing with your hair on fire. It's just, that's not good strategy. So I think there was a period in the middle of the second half where it was just managing the game, managing the tempo, because there's not a reason or an incentive to be playing that aggressive. But then on top of that, they got really close to getting the 4th and 5th goals. Those chances that Jordan missed at the end, yeah, he didn't convert them, but those are exactly the types of chances that you want to see him getting. And if you get him those chances, we've all watched him enough in his career. If you get him those chances enough times, he is going to convert those a certain percentage of the time. He missed him in this game. I get it. But those were good chances, and those were games that could have dusted it, or goals that could have dusted it even more. And I think people would be talking about it a little differently. But those factors are why I'm not really concerned that they didn't get the other goal in the second half.
But it is a little bit of both. I mean, I touched on that, right? I mean, there is a clear moment where BJ Callahan goes to a 3-man back line or 5 while defending clearly. And I think they did do a better job at keeping Seattle away from exploiting them out wide, which is where they had the most issues during the first half. I also think that there is certain truth that the players that came in were a little bit rusty when it came to, real playtime. And you saw it with Jordan Morris, because the chances were there. I mean, Jordan had 2 that were clear chances. So, again, going back to what the question was, I think that it did have to do with both adjustments by Callahan, and 2, when those moments did open up for Seattle, there was clearly some rust that needed to be knocked off. But I expect Albert to be a lot sharper in their next game.
Let's talk about Ryan Kent a little bit more. Got our first look at Ryan Kent, and I'm not gonna lie, Niko, I liked what I saw. The no looker he had to slide Ferreira in, he got really close to hitting that. And if he hit that and they got a goal off of that, imagine what we would be talking about right now. So I just loved the kind of creativity and the gumption to try that. A no looker like 2 minutes into your first game with a new club when you haven't even been playing that much. I think that kind of shows the type of player that we're talking about here. So, it was only like a 10-15 minute cameo or whatever, but I thought it wasn't even just that. There was a couple of other little plays that he made where I was like, okay, like I can see a little bit of what we're getting at here. What did you think of what your first impression of Ryan Kent?
He was, as we've seen him in practice, man. The guy is just creative. He has a flair. He has an understanding of the game. I think that his associations on the field are very clear. I thought that the no looker wasn't a unnecessary one. I thought that it was a creative one. It was a resourceful one. So just like I've been saying about him, the crazy thing about the way he plays the game is that he has some flair, but with some purposeness and some effectiveness to every single one movement that he does. I thought that he should have had a goal when Jordan Morris has like a breakout on the right side, and clearly he's trying to get a goal. Clearly he's trying to get back in rhythm. But if he puts that ball to the left side, I guarantee you that Ryan Kent's getting to it, because he's spacey, he's quick. He'll get there. He'll put it away. So just his understanding of the game, he didn't even get mad about it. He said, I'll get right. I mean, he just radiates so much confidence. He sees the game so clearly that I think he's going to be a quality player. But this is another guy that, man, when are you going to put him? How are you going to, play him? Brian was asked the question during the press conference. He kind of mentioned that he still needs to earn those minutes. He said it very clearly. He talked about the lack of games he's had over the last year and a half, and that he still needs to get back into that rhythm that he once had at either Rangers or with Bernabassi. So it's going to be Bernabassi. So it's going to be interesting how that plays out. But I think that that's going to be another player that will likely be off the bench or will be more of a rotating piece. And the only person that might come affected by it, and I said it last week in this same show, a casualty of this many attacking players that are so good, that there's so much competition, is Georgi, who wasn't on the bench, who a lot of people were asking if he was injured or not. The reality was that if you look at the bench, that's a big, heavy bench when it came to names, because you had guys that needed some time in, right? Like Jordan, like Albert, and that's why he doesn't get in this one. But he might consistently have to fight for those minutes just to be on the 18. I saw a comment there.
Yeah, no, I was on what you were just talking about. That's why I put it up there. Like why Georgi wasn't in the 18. I don't think it was. It wasn't injury related to my knowledge. I think it's just a situation where Ryan Kent is kind of here to take that role. So it's nothing like bad on Georgi. I think Georgi has been good this year when he's gotten the chance to play. It's just there's too many guys. There's too many guys on this team right now. KW says, for me, it's going to invariably come down to who pairs better with Pedro. If that's Jesus, great. Or if it's Albert, that's okay too. But Pedro needs to be the common denominator. Niko, you agree with that?
I agree with that. I think Pedro needs to be in as many games as you can. I still think that even with Ryan Kennan, he's the most talented player in this roster. I feel like he's growing by the minute. He has the most deadly mid-range strike of any player on the field, and he could push it in so little space. Man, I just think that he's so good on the ball. He's starting to every single time get more of an understanding of where players are going to be at. He'll have a couple of bad passes here and there because he is a bit of a gambler when it comes to that. But he's
about him, though. About him.
Huh?
That's what I like about him is that
that's what I like about him too. He wants to thread the needle. He wants to make that impossible pass, and when he gets it, man, it's a beauty. Look, that third goal that obviously is Ferreira to Paul Rothrock at the end is the 7-pass sequence, and when Pedro gets the ball, he could either run as he always does, but he has the understanding of where Ferreira is. He puts a ball that not every single player is going to try to put where he got it. And then Ferreira makes that nice turn. It turns into a goal. Those sort of situations is what break games, is what breaks teams. Yeah. And if anything that Seattle has had a lot of issues in the past is breaking teams that play well deep, that play, very stout defense. And this team did play some stout defense before this game against the Sounders. And I think a lot of the issues they had were those passes that nobody's making, those runs that nobody's making, like Pedro did. And I think he's the perfect fit with either Albert or Ferreira. So, man, I think that's a fine comment. I think that's absolutely right.
I loved everything about that Rothrock goal. The vision and creativity from De La Vega to pick Ferreira out, which, that's the type of pass that the defense isn't even expecting. They're not expecting him to do that. He threads that perfectly. And then I loved the movement and the body positioning that Ferreira used to receive the ball in a way that gave him space and a line of sight to pick out Rothrock. The execution of the pass to Rothrock, the perfect weight on it, great touch from Rothrock, great finish from Rothrock. That's just a phenomenal team goal. And you're absolutely right. That all starts with De La Vega. So I think that's just an example with De La Vega. I mean, we saw the goal, but that type of pass right there, that's the type of stuff that you spend $7 million for. That type of pass right there. And then the way Ferreira receives it and is able to get the assist off it, that's why you trade for a guy like that. So it was nice to see that come to fruition from two guys who, let's be honest, they've been criticized a lot by the fan base, both of those guys.
And he's so active defensively as well. I mean, he's constantly pressing, he's constantly pushing. There's a couple of moments in the first half where he's tracking back. He's getting the ball in spaces that nobody's getting. I mean, the guy has this need. There's guys who want the ball. He needs the ball. He's like, it burns his feet when he doesn't have it. And those sort of players, man, those are magnetic type of players. So his desire to be the X factor for this team is going to be huge. He's hungry. He stays hungry. He wants to score. He wants to assist. Man, I just love everything about what the kid is doing.
Yeah, no, it's we're finally, I think, really seeing what he can bring to the table after this very long period of time where he just wasn't able to stay on the field. But he looked great in this game. Zippy Tuna coming in with the $5 super chat. Thank you so much for the support. Appreciate you. Cristian was a beast. I think he's going under the radar with the other exciting performances. Won the ball back twice, leading to goals. Vintage CR7. It's a great shout. This was Cristian Roldan's best game of the season. We were talking about De La Vega's role on that Rothrock goal. De La Vega's goal does not happen without Cristian Roldan tracking back, doing that dirty work, making a great play to win the ball off that guy. He got 2 guys benched on that play. You guys realize that? He literally got 2 guys benched because he won the ball off one of the guys, and then 2 of the guys that BJ ended up subbing out were just kind of jogging. They were just not really paying much attention. And Cristian then slides that ball into Obed that leads to the goal. Those guys came out of the game because of that play. I'm pretty sure, at least that's how I took it. So it wasn't even just that play. Like, again, he and Obed, the double pivot was fantastic. And Cristian in particular, it was good to see because there has been a little bit of talk about how he maybe hasn't had his best start to the season. I felt like he started the season really well, but maybe there were a couple games below his standard. I think he would even tell you that the San Diego game was below his standard. Not just him, the whole team that game. But this was the Cristian Roldan that is one of the best at that position in all of MLS. And he just brings so much to this team as far as that work rate, that winning the ball back. And really, I think one of the other things I loved about this game, Niko, was like when the Seattle Sounders are at their best, they're like outwilling you. They're dominating the duels. They're first to every second ball. Like they're outworking you and outclassing you. This stretch where they scored 3 goals in 15 minutes, you saw all that. That's the exact identity that this team needs to play with, that they're supposed to play with, and that we haven't really seen them find consistently this season. So for them to put it together and really electrify the stadium with that 15 minutes where they were just scoring goals and going off, generating chance after chance after chance, that was as live as I've heard the stadium for a Sounders game in a while. And that was another important takeaway, was just how they were able to do that. I think that's kind of what people have been missing, is like going to the stadium and like feeling that type of excitement where it's by the way they're playing, they're going to score. Like you already know, because they're winning every ball. They're moving the ball so much faster. They got the other team so unbalanced. You can feel that the other team is under it, right? Like that's when the Seattle Sounders are at their best. And it was great to see them finally like find that in the midst of a start to the season where they haven't been able to find that consistently.
No, it was a fun one. Look, like I said, I was in the stands with the family, and I heard it was 31,000 plus that went, but it definitely felt a lot louder than that. I think this is one of the games for the first game on us proposition by the Sounders is also part of. So we saw a lot of fans there in the Hawks Nest. So clearly that's working out. But I thought that it was a very good crowd, and
it was, yeah.
Whether it was every time Nuhu would do something Nuhu-ish, whether it was a Ryan Kent going in or Paul Rothrock coming out, and all of these moments, Jordan Morris coming in, the crowd, man, was all over it. It was all over it, and I thought that it did feel like that. I don't want to call it old school, but I do want to say that it's been a while since it kind of felt like that. The Niko game was pretty good, I thought. I was obviously in the press box, but this one was very good when it came to the crowd. And I think it does have to do a little bit with the team starting to be more entertaining. And I think even Brian Schmetzer talked about entertainment and being an entertaining team. So, it is something that I'm sure this team is trying to do. And we said it. We said it last week. I'm pretty sure that we talked about the fact that the whole reason why Brian Schmetzer switched up this formation was to make it more entertaining, was to make it a more dynamic team, to get more numbers forward. And he wasn't necessarily able to do that because of the way things had played out. But now, if every player is kind of playing to their potential, then that's kind of what you get. Now, I don't want to also sit here and tell you that, it's over after this. Now the Sounders are going to go on a 10-game winning streak. I mean, we'll see how they figure out Colorado. They beat a good quality Nashville team. But I did think going into this game that Seattle kind of played I thought the Nashville played to Seattle's strengths, so we'll see what happens in the next game, where you do have again a more of a higher pressing team. It's a very different Colorado squad down there. It's going to be at altitude, so it's going to be a challenge for sure.
Yeah, they got to sustain it. They got to build on it. But I don't think you could ask for a much better foundation to try and build on than what they put on what they put out in this game. It was fantastic. Question for you from chat, Niko. Julian Franco says, Niko, with this deep roster, can Brian walk away from his favorite 11 and have a favorite 15 roster instead? Can he sit Morris and Albert?
Yeah, I think that he will. I think that he will now have, if not 15, 16, that he could potentially rotate and move from the pivots to maybe even a goalkeeper, and including the top front of your attack. I mean, you're going to have to get Ryan Kent in. You can't let Jesus Ferreira get cold. You got to have Pedro in just about every game, but maybe you got to manage his minutes and make sure that you don't overcook him. Same thing goes for Jordan Morris. I'm always worried about, because he's such an explosive player, you do got to manage those minutes. So I absolutely believe that there's going to be a lot of rotation, and it's going to be interesting because some of it are going to be asking for continuity and a starting 11, and there is going to be a need for rotation. So I do believe that to Julian's question, it is going to be more of a broader, instead of an 11, maybe with a 15 or 16 player constantly rotating in.
One thing I know is that you really can never have enough depth in this league. Like we talk about these things, but like I said, stuff comes up where you're going to have to lean on your depth one way or the other. So it's encouraging that they seem to be in a situation where I call them good problems to have. I think I was saying this to Noah last night, but I think a lot of teams in MLS would kill to be debating on who to start between Jesus Ferreira and Obed Vargas. I mean, that's a great problem to have, in my opinion.
No, for sure.
DJ Woolite coming in with another $5 super chat. Thank you, DJ. Appreciate it. Seeing how well we played without Jordan and Albert, I hope he doesn't rush them coming back. The team is just now beginning to mesh well. Yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily make it a correlation between like the team playing better and Jordan and Albert not playing. I think there are very valid questions as to how Rusnak and Ferreira fit together specifically. But generally speaking, I'm more excited about what an Obed Rusnak and a Jordan Morris can add to what we're seeing right now. Like I said earlier, Jordan's field stretching ability that's a new element that Moose is playing great right now. Like, I got nothing negative to say about Moose at all. But like, what if we had what we saw against Nashville, but what we saw at the end with Jordan Morris making those runs? I know he didn't finish those chances, but like, I was very encouraged to see him looking like his old self, making those exact runs. I know for a fact that if he keeps getting those chances that are that high quality, he's going to get some goals out of it. So I think, like I said, I think it'll solve itself to a certain extent, but I'm just very curious and intrigued to see how they run it and what these players, Rusnak and Morris, but then also Ryan Kent, can add to the mix. Like, I think there's upside beyond what we saw, maybe if the different stuff that like Jordan and Ryan Kent can bring to the table adds on top of the type of stuff that we saw. They just have to figure out how to maximize that, how to bring that out. You have any thoughts on that, Niko?
No, I think it's silly to talk about the team playing better without Jordan and Albert. I've heard it a lot, and I just brush it off because
it's a talking point that's out there right now, especially more with,
it's a crazy talking
Rusnak,
point, man. I mean, I don't get it. Like, I that's exactly why it's something beyond just one game. You gotta create the best team possible, and that's why it is so easy sometimes to just think that you have a solution, and then once that doesn't work, you figure out why. You don't understand why, but the reality is that Jordan Morris and Obed Rusnak are sharp in this lineup. They're not going to be moved. They are going to be maybe essentially Obed Rusnak with Ferreira. You could potentially shift them around, but if they're healthy and you want your best 11, Jordan Morris and Obed Rusnak are going to be always Brian Schmetzer's first option, and there's no taking that away. Same thing goes for Yamar. Same thing goes for Cristian and Obed. Same thing goes for Nuhu. We'll see what happens with Jackson. I still think that he is that guy, but Brian did kind of say that Kee-Hee is going to make it difficult for people to, get in the game, and that he's showing that he can be really good. So I always take some of those little stones that Brian throws in between the lines very seriously. So we'll see what happens. But I think that there are certain players. I think Pedro needs to be in every game. So as much as I understand that competition is great and that the team looked good against Nashville, saying that they're better without Albert and Jordan is just wild to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, people were dishing that take about Rusnak over the last week based off like the 3 or 4 games that he missed, not taking into account how many games has he played for this club? Like, I don't know, like 80 MLS matches or something at this point.
And it's hilarious
I thought it was funny.
It was probably the same people that were just dogging Ferreira and saying, oh, Ferreira is just awful and Ferreira's not going to work out. And now he's the solution for Albert. I mean, I don't get it. I understand that in terms of salary cap, that argument, I do think it's fair, right? In terms of salary cap, if you thought that you were going to get a guy like Ferreira that could do those roles, could you have gotten away from Albert and brought somebody else in? Sure, but it was a huge risk to take for a team that clearly was trying to build something with continuity. And, again, I'm not going to get away from or shy away from the fact that there was also the bit of a fear of a transfer fee for a player of that caliber, a player that gave you 35 goal contributions last season. You were going to have to go out of pocket and pay for that sort of situation, and you didn't. So that argument I understand, but when it comes to the team playing better or not with each one of these players, just I don't understand.
Here's a interesting little idea. Sell Obed, move Rusnak back a line, lineup solved. I just don't like they when he first got to the team, they played him back a line and it worked. Like they won Champions League with that setup. They did. But that the whole storyline with Rusnak in those days was that he's not playing his best position. You're not getting the most out of him. And he was a DP player that was literally like not playing his correct position. And you saw as soon as he started playing his correct position, the stat sheet production that everyone had been complaining about was there. Like he provided exactly the production that you want from that spot for that player. So
no, that setup had a Niko that has a 10 tracked and got more miles than anybody on that field. That was prime JP. I mean, that was MVP candidate JP. I mean, there's so many different ways of what that looked like at that specific time and why it kind of worked. And although we didn't see the goal contributions that you did see a team that was able to run through CCL at the time and did look good. But it's not his position, especially under this format and with this group of players. You're just asking to just get beat down the middle if you're going to ask him to do a lot more defending than he's doing now. And then you're not going to get that productivity that he does get when he's a little bit higher up the field. And again, going back to the Nashville game, I thought that he looked good when he came on. He set up a couple of really good opportunities in transition. He set up Paul with one, set up Jordan with one. I thought was good.
Yeah, I agree. DJ coming in with another $5 super chat. Thank you, man. Want to clarify, I'm not trashing on JMO and Rusnak. Just happy we've learned to adapt when our DPs are injured. Yeah, I got you, man. I know you weren't, but some people were. But it wasn't sure. DJ. It wasn't DJ on the record. Wasn't him.
Right. No, good. And it is good. It is always good that when you can get a win without some of your great best players, right? I mean, that's always a positive, especially when it's as dominant as this was.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about this Colorado game a little bit, and then hit like a couple minutes of Steve C. If you got time, Niko.
Oh yeah.
All right, sick. This Colorado game, I think, is a good little test. an away trip at Colorado, at altitude against a team that, so they're in 5th in the West right now, 4-2-3 at 1.67 points per game. So they've had a pretty good start to the season, but honestly, I pay attention to the whole league week to week. They've gotten some good results, but they've been pretty erratic. So I don't know if this team is necessarily going to be top 5 in the West all season. Maybe they will. I admittedly haven't watched them that much. I just know that their form this year has been more up and down probably than you typically see from a top 5 team. But a road matchup at Dick's Sporting Goods Park is always a challenge, like I mentioned, because of the altitude off rip. But Seattle have had a fair amount of success actually in Colorado over the years. They're pretty good at getting results there. It's weird. It's like Colorado, they can go to the altitude and do fine, win the game.
But not RSL.
RSL, they can't. So
Yeah.
That's why when people are like, oh, well, I think the thing with RSL is because it's at altitude and that makes it harder. But it's like, well, then why do they always take results in Colorado? But what are you thinking of this matchup, Niko? Someone asked for your predicted starting 11. You don't have to do the full 11, but any thoughts on what the lineup could or should be with the team getting healthier and Ryan Kent in the fold? And how are you sizing up this one?
I think Jordan and Albert are back in. I have no doubt about that. And
not
I think
riding the hot hand?
I don't think they'll ride the hot hand as much as I think it'd be cool. But that's kind of the same 11 that you had in Dallas, because Kim ended up coming in. And if you look at that 11 and you look at what you just played, it's kind of the exact same one. I feel like, as I mentioned, Jordan Morris and Obed Vargas are going to want to be in. You're going to need to put him in. Albert is a dude that he doesn't need confidence. He doesn't need anything, but he's going to tell you, I need to be in there. And I'm pretty sure that Brian's going to be like, yeah, I think you should be in there. You got to get in from the start. You got to see what that looks like with Obed Vargas on the field. I feel like when you look at this specific Colorado team, you might need a little bit more of those runs behind that Jordan Morris does, because this is a high pressing team. So you are going to need a little bit. You're going to have more space for Jordan to run into, in my opinion, in this one. And that's why you have to start with Jordan Morris. Aside from the fact that, like I mentioned, you need to get him going once again. Danny Masovsky too. I thought he came out gassed as well. So maybe rest him a little bit. He's had a little bit of some back issues, some knocks here and there. So to me, it's almost clear that it's going to be Jordan and Albert to start back on this specific starting lineup. But in terms of Colorado, man, yeah, they are a good team. I have gotten a chance to see them just because they've played some of the teams that I'm kind of assigned to, if you will. Houston, because of Nicolas Todero, and San Diego. So I've watched both of their last 2 games, and they've been good. They got a lot of quality. Rafa Navarro is a guy that, to me, you got to know where he's at all times. Yapi's a very opportunistic type of striker. I think that
Georgi Mihailovic.
Georgi Mihailovic is a guy that, although not the Georgi that potentially, was here in MLS and was a former MVP, he does have the quality. He's a guy that will kill you on set pieces if you don't watch him enough. Cole Bassett is a guy that's all over the field. He can go inside, he can go outside. I love their fullbacks, both Gannon and Vines. So they have a lot of quality players. Everywhere that you look on the field, there's a quality player on the ball. And I feel like that's why they've been so consistent at times, but they can get really caught up in transition because they play so high. The biggest thing for me is that this is the Josh Atencio revenge bowl, because I guarantee you that Josh Atencio, regardless of who'll ever say it or not, he felt some sort of way about getting sent to Colorado. So it's going to be interesting how he plays this game, the demeanor that he plays this game in, and he's going to be going out there to just get wins. So that midfield is going to be very important. I think Josh has been a crucial component for Colorado. I go as far as saying he is their main outlet when building from the back. He is the guy that is consistently looking to get those through balls to. If you need to play direct, he's the guy that's putting those balls over the top. I think that he's been very good for Colorado. So this is a quality team, well coached. that doesn't give you an opportunity to get set. They're going to want to go right off the bat. They're going to go out there and try to impose their tempo, specifically in Colorado. So it's going to be fun.
Why don't they just keep Obed, pay him, and build the team of the future around him, De La Vega and Kent, if he works out? I think there's an element of it that Obed wants to move to a league where he can
That's the real
see what he can do, and I think he should want that. And I have full confidence that whatever league that is, wherever he goes, he's going to excel. He's too good for MLS, bro. We saw it in this last game. Like, he was dominating in a way that, like, to like take over a game like that, that's a special attribute. Not every player can do that by any stretch of the imagination. He has that in him. There have been people questioning like the transfer fee, what it should be this year. Like, he's good, but he's that good is the sentiment that I hear sometimes. That game is an example of why the talk around him is what it is. It's because when he is at his best, he's a dominant player. So I think it's partially a lot of his, honestly, of his own volition that he wants to go to a league where he can test himself at the highest level and see what he can do. And I frankly think that is I want to see that. As much as I love him on this team, I want to see what he can do as well. Like, don't you?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, the answer is very simple. You just can't hold the player against his will. I mean, right. He wants to move on, and that's what every single player wants to do. Like you just said, every single player that has an opportunity, the capability to make the jump to a European league is going to do it, and you can't keep a player that's unhappy. So the reality is that you're going to have to look for a substitution. I feel like if you were to ask me right now, I think that the solution is going to be in-house. I think that the U22 is going to be using a striker, and I think that there are midfielders in Schneider that they might feel like is good enough to at least hold the position for a little bit. You got JP. You're able to, potentially have him just kind of fill in for a little bit. But I really do think that full-time, temporary new player, you won't get it for another year. You're going to figure out what it looks like with some in-house guys. And then if that doesn't work, then you're going to go out there and spend some money on a central midfielder.
Niko, as we start the process of wrapping it up here, let's talk about this Steve Cherundolo news. Came out last week that Stevie C is leaving LAFC at the end of the season. He's going to coach out the rest of this season, so he didn't get fired. And then he said he's moving back to Germany for family reasons. So that all makes sense. He has roots in Germany. He played in the Bundesliga his whole playing career. His family has a lot of ties there. So I get that. But what did you make of like the timing of this, Niko? Like, to announce it in April and put yourself in a situation where you've got now got a lame duck coach the rest of the season, which I think there's a reason that you don't see that very often, which is because when you know you're playing on a lame duck under a lame duck coach, does that not affect like credibility or your willingness to kind of take to heart or listen to what they have to say when you know that they're already leaving? But I don't know. What did you think? Because I just thought this was interesting timing. I don't know if I've ever seen this. Have you seen this?
I've never seen it, and it's very Steve Cherundolo. I say when I'm leaving, I know that my team is playing like crap right now, and I know that it's not great, but I'm saying that I'm leaving for my own personal reasons. So that was the first thing that came to mind. It just seems very Steve Cherundolo-like. And then the second thing is that there's probably a guy that they're waiting for, that's a potential option for LAFC, because they're not just going to go out there and get some guy. I feel like they're going to probably get a big name coach if, everything that we have heard about Grisman and all these other players that are going to come into LAFC, you're going to need a guy that's going to help you recruit and do all these things. But you're right. When it comes to this LAFC team, it sucks that your coach is basically saying, I'm gone by the end of the year. So, whatever we finish, I mean, it is what it is. I'm out of here. It's odd. But it is interesting because what I just mentioned, does that affect the scouting process? Does that affect, people coming in or out? I mean, they're going to say, yeah, I'm going to come in and play for a coach till December.
Who I don't even know. I don't even know who the coach is going to be the next year. So I'm
guessing LAFC knows. That's what I'm thinking. I'm guessing LAFC knows, and whenever that player asks, is like, oh yeah, Steve's finishing the year, and then
we'll bring in so.
Then we'll bring in so and so. Yeah, Tata's coming. I mean, I don't know. Just whatever they decide, they're telling players this is going to be here next. That's the only reasoning I find behind it.
The way I see it, like they better hope they need to play well, play better than they've been playing to start the season here. They looked actually really good. Well, they got a great result in Portland in a game where they had to come back, and they looked better than they had been. But like, just say hypothetically there's a situation where their form takes a nosedive and they're really struggling, which honestly, that can happen to any MLS team at any time. You can think you've got a sick roster. You can think that it's all going well, and then injuries hit, whatever happens. If they hit a stretch where they torpedo at all between now in April, the season it's like a quarter done. If they hit a nosedive at any time between now and the end of the season, that's not good. Like, I don't know how you handle that, because at that point, like, that has to affect like the players' buy-in. If the form is nosediving under a coach who's already said, I'm out, peace. Like, they need to play well for the rest of the season and realistically look like the LAFC of old. Otherwise, like, I don't see, like, there's no way this situation stays afloat. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they have something cooked up to make it work that we don't know about, but I think they got to hope that they play a lot better than they have been playing. And it has ripple effects for everyone else in the West. It affects Seattle for sure. This is one of their biggest competitors in the West, one of their biggest rivals, and one of the teams that they're always going to have to go through if they want to win anything. So honestly, I'm rooting for a little chaos and turmoil for them. I hope it nosedives, and partially because that would benefit Seattle, but also, for the entertainment value. I like a good club falling apart storyline. So I don't know. It's just it
was odd. Situation. It was odd, and like you said, I mean, credit to the players, because they came out at Portland in a difficult venue. They were down 2-0. They had a couple of opportunities, a couple of goals that were taken off because they were offside. Denny Bouanga, both times a little bit too eager to get forward, and rightfully so, they get invalidated, and still they're able to get back into the game. So you get Oliver Giroud's best game that I've seen since he's been here.
He was running around and he scored a goal.
He scored a goal, a beauty of a free kick, but it wasn't just that. His passing was on point. Finally, he's able to, link up and do all these things that we knew he had in his tool bag, but just, I don't know, wasn't doing it. I've said this many times, it's a lot easier to get into MLS than people think of, and, maybe he adapted well. But going back to the whole point, credit to the team that they went out there and just played their hearts out. I do want to say this real quick. It was cool to see Denny Bouanga with the Aaron Bupensa tribute. Cincinnati did it as well. The tragic passing of the former FC Cincinnati striker. But I thought it was credit to the team for going out there and playing. But it's not easy. It is odd. It's weird. It's very Steve-like. But
it is. Yeah. I hadn't thought about it through that lens, but it is how you would expect Steve C to do it. Rhombus Lab says, feel for the players in that situation. Nobody wants to work under a boss sticking around for a paycheck or whatever. Exactly. It's like, that's basically the situation. And like, I don't know, like maybe they were trying to get ahead of leaks or something. I just don't get why. Like, why not just wait until either later in the season or after the season? Maybe we're talking about with like recruitment or whatever. They got somebody lined up. I'm open to all those possibilities. I just don't know. All right, Niko, we're at an hour 13. I think it's about time for us to start wrapping it up here. anything else you wanted to hit, like Seattle Sounders wise, or that caught your eye from around the league, or anything before we get out of here?
No, not that I can think of, especially not at this moment of the show. I did, happen to run into Jackson Reagan. He seems in good spirits during the game, and he clearly is going to be off for quite a few weeks, but he seems to be in good spirits, watching all the games, supporting his team. So that was kind of cool to see. And other than that, man, I think that's about everything. We'll see what this Colorado game looks like. We're going to obviously be at Providence Swedish Clubhouse and Performance Center all week long. So go ahead and, follow our information. We're going to be there to see what the news come about. We're going to have a close eye on guys like Ryan Kent, Jordan Morris, see how all that plays out this week. But just thank you for putting the show together there, boss man.
Yeah, a pleasure as always, man. Glad we got to break down an emphatic win finally. That was fun. Hopefully we get to do that again soon. Thank you as always to everyone for tuning in. If you haven't done so yet, like the video. There's a lot of you watching right now. If every single one of you likes the video, maybe we can get this to triple digit likes. That would be huge. Big for the algo. Sub to the channel, like, comment, subscribe, all that. All right, I think that's it. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll have the dub pod coming out tomorrow, hopefully, and then I'll be back at it on Thursday for Lobbing Scorchers Under the Lights. I'll see you there. Peace. Don't want to give money to the oligarchs, but love Lobbing Scorchers? Do we have a deal for you? MLS Season Pass is back on Apple TV with access to every single MLS match, including Leagues Cup and the entire Audi MLS Cup playoffs with no blackouts. It's not just the games, you get total access to the pre- and post-match MLS 360 whip-around show in both English and Spanish, and get live look-ins and highlights from around the league, as well as full match replays and recaps. Now, you can support our show by visiting lobbingscorchers.com/Apple TV to purchase your subscription and support our show.
Lobbingscorchers.com/Apple TV. Please, don't let the oligarchs win.